After a several-year hiatus, Bookcon is officially back. Its highly anticipated return happened just a couple weekends ago, but unfortunately for those who attended, their expectations did not match reality. It was kind of a dumpster fire for most of the people there, to be honest. And that is what I want to talk to you all about today. Welcome to Salted Latte, a place on the internet where I use my words to over-explain other people's words. And today we are going to be reacting to some experiences of 2026 Bookcon goers to find out what exactly went wrong and if these people are justified in their frustrations or not. And spoiler, I do think they are. I actually wasn't planning on making this video, but I kept getting recommended people's horror stories from attending, and I just felt like I had to say something. The woman in this first video we're about to dive into is certainly not happy with her Bookcon experience.
So it's Saturday and I went to New York City Bookcon, and if Bookcon is listening, I have a few words for you. As someone who is not a big reader, I came with all of my book nerd friends who are just absolutely the most amazing people ever. And they were so excited, and so was I, because I have a lot of expectations for cons. Comic-Cons, FitCon, I have been to those. Incredible, amazing, lots of people, thousands of people like today. Bookcon New York City was such a waste of time and money. Do you know what they give you for free? Maybe you'll get a book if they have enough, because they don't have enough to give away to everyone.
That's something I've been seeing a lot, which is that there just wasn't enough of anything, of any kind of resource for the amount of people that this convention sold tickets to. Like, there weren't enough books, there weren't enough places to sit, the lines were so long, they were wrapping around other booths and causing other authors and other sellers not to even be seen because there just wasn't enough space to have proper single file lines. There wasn't even enough food. I think I saw several comments of people saying that the vendor that the place booked for food ran out, which unfortunately for Bookcon does kind of remind me of the TanaCon incident, where she also way oversold tickets and tried to hold that convention in the hotel, and it ended up getting shut down because there were just too many people. It was a safety hazard.
Or even better, you'll get free paper bookmarks or stickers.
I'm going to touch on this a little bit later in another video, but the freebie situation for Bookcon 2026 versus Bookcons in the years prior was abysmal. I'm gonna be honest. It seems kind of scammy to me. At the very least, a little suspicious. Definitely underwhelming for sure.
Not to mention, we spent all this time going around and collecting their scavenger hunt, their little treasure hunt that they had. 12 different places we had to find. Do you want to know what the prize for the treasure hunt was? Just wait, a bookmark? No. Stickers? No. We got to be entered into a giveaway. Doing all of that work for a giveaway? We didn't win anything for doing the treasure hunt. Put in all that work for zip. Nothing. Nada.
That is just so ridiculous. That's not even a real prize. Are you kidding me? And then also, the convention was already way overpacked, and you are creating this activity, this quote-unquote activity, that is just having more people run around in groups and cause even more disruption and chaos to the lines of people who are already descending into chaos. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound like it was very well thought through as a concept, as an idea, as an activity. And that's not even getting into the fact that the supposed prize for completing this scavenger hunt isn't even a real thing. It's just being entered into a giveaway. So basically you're winning a chance to win. It's so odd, and I don't know why they thought that this was gonna fly. They thought people were gonna be okay with that. It just, again, in my opinion, seems very poorly thought through. It seems very careless and thoughtless, and it seems very scammy. You couldn't give these people a tote bag, you couldn't give them a discount even on merch or books, you couldn't give them an exclusive arc or an exclusive piece of fan-made art. There were just so many other options that would have been so cooler, and they chose entering a giveaway. Like, that's not even a prize. You're having people put in all of this effort and again, further disrupting your already overpacked, chaotic convention, and you're not even going to reward them properly for it. It feels very insulting to the people, the thousands of people that spent a lot of money to even attend this convention in the first place. And we will get into the ticket prices soon, okay? Because you might be thinking, oh, for like a free or a low cost book convention or any convention in general, you know, we're expecting maybe not the highest of quality, most expensive sort of freebies. We're expecting food and like merch and stuff to be a little overpriced, but the ticket prices for this convention are insane, in my opinion, insanely expensive. Too expensive to be giving people concepts of prizes as a prize.
And then they are so disorganized. There is no room to walk anywhere. All of the booths were like pre-made, pre-bought stuff. Pretty much. There were a few that were handmade. And then it's like, oh, that's a cute necklace. I want to get that. It's $70.
I've noticed that in recent years, the merchandise quality at vendor booths for not just Bookcon, but for any kinds of conventions or expos, or even like local farmers markets or crafts fairs and stuff like that, have really been downgraded in quality. And a lot of what you get there now is just drop shipped items with logos or images smacked onto or screen printed onto them, or like random 3D printed plastic little toys that really serve no purpose other than to just create clutter in your home. I'm thinking of those 3D printed dragons specifically. Or it will be artists who claim to be making handmade art and it'll actually be either partially or entirely AI generated, which I'm not claiming that anyone at Bookcon did. That hasn't been anything I've seen, but I'm just saying that her comment here about the quality of what was being sold, especially for the insanely marked up prices, really seems to be taking over a lot of vendor and booth and fair spaces. And that's super disappointing because you go to these places, even if you're not spending money for a ticket, you're still taking time out of your day to go, and with the intentions of, you know, finding unique local artists, supporting small artists, getting something cool, and you're willing to spend a little bit more money for that because you know you're supporting a real person, a real small business. And to have that be manipulated and to have so many people now begin to take advantage of that and deceive people, it just makes these places so unpleasant, and it makes you so cautious as a consumer of purchasing from vendor booths at places like these, because in that moment it can be really hard to tell what is genuine and what is not. So it is disappointing to see that Bookcon did not do, in my opinion, proper vetting for who exactly was selling at their convention and what exactly they were selling and where that was sourced from. And again, this isn't just a Bookcon issue. I think all sort of market spaces are being impacted by this now, unfortunately.
We sat in a class, okay, that we were like, okay, we're excited for this book binding. We sit there and the girl who's doing it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not used to doing this in front of a crowd. And we're like, oh, okay, they're gonna hand stuff out, we're gonna bind some books. No, we're just watching her bind books. This is what she does. She does it online. And then she's doing what she does online that you can watch for free from so many people just sitting there watching her bind a book.
When you're advertising a book binding class or any sort of class or course, there are certain expectations that come along with that phrasing. And for myself and for her and a lot of other people, when you're talking about attending a class, you're talking about something that is hands-on, that you're also involved in learning and in the creating process, especially when it comes to something in the artistic field like bookbinding. Like, you wouldn't attend an art class and just sit and watch someone paint, you know, a picture of a sunset. You would also be there painting along with them, and they would be instructing you and teaching you things, skills to learn. It sounds like this quote-unquote class was just basically the real-life version of you watching like a time lapse of someone doing a book binding on YouTube. And that again is super disappointing because you paid to be here, and I don't know if you also have to pay for this class, but everything else is super expensive and overpriced, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of fee. Again, I'm not sure if there was, but yeah, you're paying a bunch of money for tickets to be here. If you're not native to New York where the con is held, then you have to pay for transportation and somewhere to stay. So you're investing a lot of money into this, and then you're participating in these activities like bookbinding classes, and you're not even really getting a class. You're just watching someone do something, and you don't even get anything to take away from that. Like, you don't get any physical memorabilia. I just don't understand why these people didn't have actual books to bind. Like, why did the convention not provide that? Because clearly they must have enough money from this with all of these other things that they're charging for. And if they didn't have enough money for it, then they should have chosen a different kind of activity that was more affordable and still enjoyable, so that way they could really give these convention goers, you know, a full experience instead of something that's lackluster and leads you on and it's disappointing.
Across from us were people with coloring pencils, and they were like, throw some beans on a paper and then draw a map for magical worlds.
That literally sounds like an activity you would do with toddlers or elementary school aged people. Like, you cannot be serious. You cannot expect people to pay so much money and take so much time out of their day to throw some beans at a piece of paper and like draw a blob. Like, what? Again, and I hate to say it because I know that Bookcon in previous years has been so good, but this year is really just giving TanaCon and DashCon, and it's so embarrassing for them. Like, they really thought that this was gonna be okay, that people were going to accept and enjoy this. Scribbling on a piece of paper and watching someone, paying to watch someone do all of these activities, and then going to stand in lines for hours and hours on end to maybe meet an author or maybe not, maybe get a book or maybe not, because they weren't being properly stocked. It really is just a big gamble with whatever you do here, because you never know if you're actually going to be getting what was being sold to you, or you're just gonna get some watered down, very cheap version.
And now some of these may be fun that you do like on a girls' night, right? Like you do when you're hanging out with your friends, you're hanging out with your girls. But at a con, a book con, what? I want a refund.
Speaking of refunds, they're not allowed. At any point in time, you're not allowed to get a refund. All the tickets are non-refundable according to the Bookcon website. I had a little bit of a hard time finding the prices for Bookcon tickets considering the events already passed, but I did find a lot of news sources reporting a range from $60 being general admission all the way up to $900 per weekend ticket for the premium VIP tier, which is insane. And then the regular VIP tier would be $800. So these people are spending upwards of $1,000 just on the tickets alone. Again, not even including transportation, not including places to stay. And this is the quality of what they are being given. Now, of course, VIP and premium VIP do have some extra perks listed that I'll go through with you right now, because perks, in my opinion, a little bit of a stretch. So for regular VIP, which again is $800, you get weekend admission. So I'm assuming either Friday or Saturday and Sunday. I don't remember the exact dates. Express entry and re-entry, early access to the show floor, the official Bookcon 2026 gift bag. It doesn't list what's in the gift bag. Hopefully it's more than some flimsy paper bookmarks and some stickers like this girl was talking about. 15% off Bookcon shop discount. So basically you're paying $800 for them to give you a discount to end up giving them more money, which is just such a great deal, is it not? 5 author autograph reservations in parentheses as supplies last, which doesn't make sense to me at all, because your Bookcon, you know how many tickets you're selling. Why are you not making sure that you have the same amount of author autograph reservations available as the amount of VIP and premium VIP tickets you're selling? Do you understand what I mean? As supplies last doesn't make sense because this isn't a tangible object. And even again, if it was a tangible object, just make sure that you have the amount that is the same as the number of tickets you're selling, and then everything should be fine. There should be enough for everyone. I also saw some discrepancies online with people who did purchase VIP passes, saying that they weren't able to even get their author reservations at all because Bookcon allowed people to register 5 slots of the same author in a row. So some people were taking up 5 slots of one author, and that means that the other VIPs weren't able to get even 1 slot with that author, which doesn't make sense. I don't know why they would allow people to do that. It should be 1 author per reservation. Like, why would you allow people to book multiple time slots with the same author? Again, like, it's just such a mess. But anyways, private VIP lounge access with water and charging stations, which I find odd that we are charging money for access to water. But okay, I guess. Private shipping service available for a fee. So again, you're paying money to spend more money. Complimentary coat and bag check. Access to Saturday night after hours events, including a fantasy themed ball, murder mystery parties, storytelling, and open mic events, etc. More surprises to come, again subject to capacity, which is basically the same as saying as supplies last. Now, I haven't heard as much critique about these after hours events, and I'm assuming that's because they were only available for VIP and premium VIP members. So that's a much smaller pool of people, a much more manageable pool of people. So they were probably better able to deliver on the quality that they promised. But again, still subject to capacity doesn't make sense to me, because you know how many tickets you're selling and you also know what your venue's capacity is. So why would you not just make sure those are compatible? Make it make sense. Premium VIP also has a couple other extra ones. They have reserved seating in the main stage, but they must be seated 20 minutes prior to the start of the panel. They also have an express checkout lane at the official Bookcon shop. So again, basically another way of them being like, we're giving you more streamlined opportunities to spend even more money and give us even more money, which I don't really think is a deal. I don't really think that's very enticing. And then they also get first access to Bookcon 2027 tickets, which, I mean, after all this, we'll see if there is a Bookcon 2027 or if anyone even shows up. But let's circle back to this first TikTok just for a moment before we move on to the next one, because we have a lot of comments agreeing with what she has to say. A lot of comments from people who attended this year and also people who have attended years prior, who remember a completely different Bookcon to what has happened in 2026. You'll see so many people saying how crowded Bookcon was, not just the lines, but also all of the activities, the panels, which once you got into the room, you could see only really could fit a smaller number of people. And yet you have this giant crowd that's trying to sort of cram themselves in, or either get cut off and are not able to enter at all unless they get there like super early, or if they spent, you know, that outrageous price for VIP or exclusive VIP. It was very hard to have access to any of these activities and panels if you weren't VIP. Basically, if you had a general admission ticket, you kind of were out of luck for most of the things that Bookcon even had to offer, which is super disappointing. We also had comments from people who attended Bookcon, you know, before it closed for several years around the pandemic, and they say that back in 2018, back in 2019, they would come home with suitcases and bags full of freebies and full of free books, free tote bags, free ARCs, free everything. And it just doesn't seem like Bookcon now in its first year back really was prepared to handle the giant crowd of people that was showing up for this event. You know, in those like 7 or so years between the last Bookcon in 2019 and the Bookcon that just happened, we had the explosion of TikTok, we had the explosion of Book Talk and BookTube, and so many new viewers, and this huge resurgence in reading reading and the interest in reading and books and bookish hobbies. And it seems like this convention was naively not ready to handle any of that, which unfortunately made the experience for the people who did go really low quality, which is sad because there were many people who are newer to the book community who this is their first Bookcon, this is their first real experience of Bookcon, and it's left such a bad taste in their mouth. And at the same time, you could say that a lot of the crowd issues and a lot of the decorum issues with crowds and with the con goers were because of these people who are new to the bookish space and new to the convention space and just didn't understand the decorum and the social rules of these kinds of environments. And because Bookcon really dropped the ball on all of this, it made that even worse because there was no structure for these people. There were no guidelines for these people. It really was kind of just like a free-for-all. And unfortunately, that creates the perfect storm for people to get hurt, which is what this next TikTok we're going to be discussing is all about.
Minutes into the first day, when I was trying to get on a line and was pushed to the ground. Pushed to the ground, trying to get on a line. I had an ADA wristband. And the person who shoved me to the ground was like behind me or like next to me, can't really remember, saying like, you know, they wouldn't allow us on the line until 10:15. And she was like, well, I don't care. I'm gonna get on that line. I said, oh. Do you know how many people there's around? There's a bunch of people here, babes. Like, and the workers are like, guys, no pushing. Like, please just try and walk to the line. Disorganized as heck. I will say that. Disorganized as heck.
This poor woman couldn't even make it 30 minutes into the first day at Bookcon without being essentially trampled to the ground by other Bookcon goers. Even though there were workers around, she says there were other staff around that seemed to be saying, hey, like, we have to wait till a certain time to line up, but they didn't seem to be really enforcing that very well because this woman still got trampled. And to make it worse, she was wearing an ADA wristband. ADA wristbands are often given out for concerts, conventions like this, or festivals, and they are for attendees with disabilities or chronic illnesses, autoimmune illnesses, to be able to get access to certain amenities and resources to make their convention going, concert going, whatever going experience easier and more comfortable for them. For example, you can get special seating, special parking, special restroom passes if you have an ADA wristband at a lot of these places like Coachella or Lollapalooza, and I guess Bookcon was also offering them too, although it doesn't seem like they were really offering that many amenities for people wearing them, considering this woman got pushed and shoved while wearing one right in front of the staff that were working Bookcon, and nothing really seemed to come of it. Nobody seemed to prevent it, which is just really concerning. And this is the only story I've heard of someone with the ADA wristband specifically getting pushed and shoved around and knocked to the ground. So I hope for everyone else's sake this is a one-off incident, but it still shouldn't have been happening at all. And it is a result of staff who are not doing their jobs properly, and also other convention goers who are not properly respecting the rules that are put in place. Now, someone in another TikTok did say that Bookcon had a quote-unquote quiet room, which I guess could be considered an accommodation if this room was actually quiet and low stimulating. Unfortunately, according to this woman, it was anything but a relaxing getaway from the chaos that was Bookcon and the crowds.
Story time. Now, I told you guys I was going to give you a story time in regards to Bookcon. I wrote a whole list on everything that I wanted to touch because, you know, I usually just yap freely, but baby, I have points that I want to get to.
You really made this lady go and write a whole list about it. That's how you know it's bad.
Everybody was asking because the first video I uploaded was how like I was overstimulated by like the 7th hour. They did have a quiet room. It was on the 4th floor. Problem with the quiet room was it wasn't quiet. 1, it was packed. 2, the lights were bright. 3, music was playing. I'm expecting literally like a dim room lots of space.
Now, I don't know about you, but that room did not look or sound quiet and relaxing at all. I mean, those bright fluorescent lights were just horrendous, and it seemed like it was just, yeah, it's just super bright and chatty, and also the floors look like they're just concrete slabs, which doesn't seem very comfortable at all. It does seem like there were a couple of couches, chairs in the far corner, which this lady also says there were, but it doesn't look like there were a ton of them, and the ones that were there were already taken up by people. So I guess if you didn't get there at a certain time, you just would have to sit on the concrete floor under this bright lighting and listen to all of these people talk, which is just, it just has to be satirical at this point that Bookcon would label this room as the quiet room, right?
A tarot reading event going on, and they also had a L'Oreal, the book box, selling special editions in the quiet room. That's not a quiet room.
So it sounds like they also had multiple vendors set up shop in this quiet room, which doesn't make sense at all. And it really leads me to further believe that Bookcon not only overbooked the visitors and the amount of tickets sold, but they also overbooked their vendors as well, given the capacity of the building. Because I just don't understand why else we would have these booths spilling into areas that are supposed to be the quiet rooms, that are supposed to be, you know, the break rooms, the rooms where you get away from all the noise. It doesn't make sense to me. And this really ends up being disrespectful not only to the Bookcon goers who are trying to go into this space to maybe take a break, have a rest, to calm down, and they're being inundated by other shoppers and all this other noise. It's also so disrespectful to those vendors and those small businesses that get shoved into that room as like the overflow, because it does cost money to sign up to be a vendor for these conventions, and it's not cheap either, especially for one as popular and well known as Bookcon. I'm sure it was hundreds, if not upwards of $1,000 just to have a space there to sell your stuff. And so to be shoved like in this back room where you're not getting the main flow of traffic is just, it's really awful and really disrespectful. Like I keep saying, it's just slimy behavior, I think, on the part of Bookcon for doing that, for being irresponsible in their bookings and their capacity limit. Because not only are you hurting these sellers, you're hurting their sales, you're hurting your reputation as well as a convention, because look at all of these videos coming out about how poorly run and disorganized and chaotic and overpriced everything was, their entire experience was. And Bookcon already had sort of an uphill battle to climb, given that they were gone for so long, and also all of those ICE accusations that came out months before as well, that I'm not going to go into here, but if you know, you know. So the fact that they had all of that as well leading up to this event, and they still dropped the ball on the event itself, is really just incredibly disappointing.
There were publishers there that were selling books, and that's another thing where I was saying, like, why would I pay you $60 for a Bookcon ticket to then go buy books at full price? I understand you're paying to be here, but if I'm paying to be here, why would I come buy a full price book? Why would I pay to go somewhere to buy a full price book? I can go to my local Barnes & Noble, my local indie bookstore, and buy that book for this exact same price. And some of the books were even higher than what it would have been if I would have went to Barnes & Noble or an indie bookstore.
So it seems like if you're not into activities like watching people do something instead of learning how to do it yourself and drawing scribbles on a piece of paper for fun, then your only other real option at Bookcon is to shop, to purchase merchandise, to purchase books, which again wouldn't be that big of an issue if you already weren't paying $60 to $900 to get into the convention in the first place. You are basically paying to spend money, more money than you would be at your regular bookstore. And this creator makes a really great point, saying that you could go to your local bookstore, your local indie bookstore, and go buy these books for less money, and you would be doing good because you would be supporting indie bookstores, which need to be supported now more than ever.
And then they were doing things where, like, you can get tickets to signings. I got in line when it started. Me and my girls, we all got in one line each when it started. The line leaders, they were like people who worked for the publisher or worked for like the book service or whatever. They had like little signs or whatever. They're telling you where to go, and then somehow the lines are getting confused. They're mixing with other lines. People are cutting, people are shoving, people are pushing. Ain't nobody push or shove me. Did hear about people getting pushed, shoved, scratched, all that other stuff.
Again, like I mentioned in that other video of that other woman getting shoved, it's just so chaotic and disorganized that it really is a breeding ground for people to get hurt.
Anyway, Indie Alley was a bunch of indie authors. I knew a couple of them. I purchased their books. The only thing about Indie Alley was it was very expensive. And I understand these indie authors are purchasing the option to be at a booth. So they're going to sell their books to kind of make a profit off of that. There was a lot of paperbacks that were way over $25. A lot of hardcover books that was like damn near $100, you know.
I've seen this creator and several others say that Indie Alley was by far the best part of Bookcon, but it still did not come without cons, I guess you could say. Because like I mentioned earlier, these vendors do have to spend so much money to be here at this convention. They have to mark up their books so much in order to make a profit that it becomes exorbitantly expensive, even for, you know, supporting a small author, supporting an indie author. Like, we all only have so much money in this economy and it sucks, but books can get very expensive, which again is why, you know, as she said earlier, and I also agree with, instead of going to a convention like this, go to your local bookstore and purchase books by smaller authors there, because that's another more accessible, more affordable way to still support them. Or order books from indie authors directly off of their website online. It is a really cool experience to be able to go to a convention like this and meet the authors, but when we're pricing at, you know, over $20 for a paperback, it gets to a point. I'm sorry, not everyone can afford to do that, and that's fine. But there are more sustainable and simpler ways to support smaller authors and to support local bookstores as well. Similarly to the other TikToks we have discussed so far, a lot of the comments on this one were from people who have attended Bookcon in the past, saying that they don't recall it being anything like this at all, saying how much free stuff they would be getting every time they would attend. This one comment says, Bookcon back in 2017 to 2019 was so much better and better organized. I got all the stuff for free in this picture just in one day. 2026 was a different story. I didn't get as much free stuff, and I spent close to $700. Indie Alley scared me because majority of my money was spent there, and I wanted to support the indie authors, but the books were so expensive. Bookcon this time around was horrible and disorganized. Even all the parties on Saturday were a flop. They also oversold the event. Vendors were told to be prepared to serve 1,500 people. They sold out of food because there was more than 2,500 people. This commenter also left a picture of all of these stuff that they allegedly got for free back in Bookcon during the year of like 2017 or 2018. Let's count how many books are in this picture. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, like 20 books, all for free. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 full-sized tote bags, all for free. A bunch of bookmarks, a bunch of pins, a mug, posters, some artwork that's rolled up over there in the corner, a ton of stuff. And believe me, I tried to find a haul from Bookcon 2026 of all the freebies someone got, but I literally could only find hauls of people of merchandise and books that they have purchased themselves. Completely different vibes there, completely different. This last video we're going to be looking at today is another person talking about even more of the differences between Bookcons in the past versus this year's Bookcon disaster dumpster fire.
Thank you for this comment, because a lot of people think that the people who are complaining about Bookcon are entitled because they didn't get free ARCs or free books, and that you shouldn't expect that when you're going to a convention. And maybe for other conventions that is the case, but when it comes to Bookcon, that was literally what was advertised.
I understand that not all conventions are like this, of course, when it comes to freebies, but it does shock me how many people are trying to justify the overpricedness of Bookcon this year when we have so much evidence of Bookcon in previous years being such higher quality, much better organized? You're getting so many more free gifts and goodies like I just showed, and like this person is about to show in their video here.
My friend is an OG Instagrammer, and she's been doing this for years, and she's been to multiple book cons. And this,
just like the other picture I showed, you can see how many books and other sorts of freebies and arcs and bookmarks and pins and stickers this person got from Bookcon back in like the 2017 to 2019 era. And Bookcon today just isn't doing it like that anymore. I mean, she has even more books here that she got for free than the other picture I just showed had. And the other picture had like 20 of them. There's just such a stark difference in expectation versus reality here of Bookcon's past and Bookcon 2026. I really don't know how they're gonna recover from this. I haven't seen them put out a statement or anything. I don't know if they're going to or if they're planning to. Even if they don't put out a public statement, clearly some things internally need to be addressed. And I did see that Bookcon switched management companies from previous years for this year, so that might have something to do with it. Maybe they just don't understand the demographic that is the Bookcon audience, the bookish audience, the book talk audience. I don't know, but this really was such a big swing and a miss, especially for people who had attended Bookcons in the past and were so excited for it to finally be revived. I really have nothing else to say other than it's incredibly disappointing, and please don't buy overpriced books. Please don't buy tickets to overpriced conventions, no matter how cool they seem like they're gonna be. And please, 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 above all else, support your local bookstores and support indie authors. You don't have to go to big conventions like these to support small authors. And at the end of the day, I do feel bad for these indie authors and these other vendors that spent so much time and money to set up booths for this event only for it to turn out so catastrophically bad. As always, feel free to comment your thoughts and your opinions on Bookcon 2026. Were you an attendee there? Were you an attendee of previous years? Are you just sort of on the outskirts viewing all of this go down like me? I would love to know. Just please do keep it as respectful as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't necessarily planning on making this video. It was kind of like an in the moment decision because I was getting an influx of these short form videos talking about everyone's disastrous experiences, and I just felt like I had to talk about it. So if the editing is a little lackluster, I do apologize. If my takes maybe aren't as hot or worded as well as maybe I normally am, then again, I'm sorry about that, but I do enjoy making a more casual kind of chatty video every once in a while as well. Of course, I'd love it if you liked and subscribed to the channel. Over here at Salted Latte, I mainly love to dissect and dive into other people's words through all kinds of mediums: book, fanfiction, TV, film, music, and sometimes we talk a little bit about bookish related drama as we are today. Anything I'm interested in really, or anything that you might be interested in too that's sort of related to this world, let me know if you've seen things floating around for me to talk about. But that's all I have to say about Bookcon for now, so I will talk to you all soon. Goodbye.